How would you like to triple your rental income? That's a pretty stupid question, right? I'm going to show you exactly how to do that with Airbnb here today on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Hey guys, welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. You're listening to me, Kyle Stanley, and we've got another throwback episode on a different podcast that I appeared on, which was the Flip with Rick podcast. And Zach Ginn, a good friend of mine who, if you didn't see the episode I did with him, this guy was a six-figure earner before he even turned 20 years old. That's right. As a teenager, he was making crazy income, flipping houses, wholesaling houses. But he asked me to appear on his show where basically he was just asking me, what is the appeal of Airbnb? And the question that was answered was really, well, do you really want to make triple the income with Airbnb? And I mean, that's all it comes down to, right? We can overcomplicate this thing. I get the question all the time. Kyle, at the end of the day, is Airbnb really worth it? Like, is it worth it to deal with turnover? Is it worth it to deal with guests? Is it worth it to go into the hospitality business, really more so even than the real estate business? And I always ask them the same thing. I mean, at the end of the day, do you want to make more money? And if so, are you willing to put in the work? And so just like anything, it can be systematized. And that's one of the things that we talk about here with Zach on his episode of the Flip with Rick podcast is exactly that. Like, you can make more money. You can systematize it just like anything else. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in this episode. So just sit back, buckle up the seatbelts, listen to Zach. Zach's awesome. He's got a lot of energy. So this will be an entertaining episode. And before you do, make sure that you've liked, subscribed, and definitely commented on this video. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, pause, give us 5 stars, give us a review. We'd really appreciate that. Let's get to it now with Zach Ginn.
Hey guys, we are live. Welcome to the Bags to Riches podcast. I'm Zach Ginn, your host. I quitted my minimum wage bag boy job to pursue the riches of real estate investing at the age of 17 and never looked back. I'm here to educate and inform entrepreneurs, young and old, how to become complete real estate investors by talking to some of the best and most influential minds of real estate. I'm joined by our guest today, Kyle Stanley. Kyle is a real estate investor, Airbnb champion out of Fresno, California. He started his real estate investing journey last year and has ferociously started racking up deals and Airbnb income, going from $1,000 to over $25,000 a month using his great systems. Thanks for coming on today, Kyle.
Ferociously, I like it. You pulling that from the lion? That's what I'm hoping to hear.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I've seen guys start from year 1 to year 3. It's very slow, and then they start ramping it up. I mean, you're straight up.
Hey, trying, man, trying. If you find the right system, you go all in. That's really the missing pieces that I was able to put together. So excited to be on the show, though. Thanks, Zach.
All right, great. So, I got connected with you because you were actually on the podcast with Pace. You were actually hosting him in there when he had his meetup in Fresno. So that's how I got connected with you and looked you up. And you got a pretty amazing system when it comes to Airbnb. So that's why I decided to have you on today.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I mean, you and I had kind of seen each other on Instagram, and then Pace Morby and Jameel, they're in my office here in Fresno, and Pace goes, "Oh yeah, I got to jump on a podcast." And before I know it, I'm looking at your face. I was like, "Is that the Flip with Rick guy?"
Oh, that's great. So, I'm going to tell you why, the questions I have Airbnb, but let's start out from the beginning. How did you come from TV and various sales jobs onto real estate?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, man, I just always felt like I was just a little bit off from what I was supposed to be doing, or just, there was always something that I was doing that felt like, hey, this could be it, but there's just a little something missing. For example, in the TV world, when I was a sports anchor, if you know anything about that, yeah, you're not getting paid what you deserve, but more so, it was just an industry with a lot of negativity surrounding it. So that just kind of dragged me down. Then I built a business in sports videography, moved it to Arizona, and that was fun, but there was just things about that with lack of business experience that I just didn't quite have yet. And I think that opportunity for building a business kind of came a little early in my life, and I didn't know the importance of having a mentor, having education. I just was trying to do everything on my own. Went into health and wellness, then going into other sales jobs. Everything was just like, man, there's just one little missing piece. And then it was January 4th of 2019. I was sitting in a Fortune Builders event here in Fresno, California. And the reason I even got to that event was because, I started researching real estate and flipping and apartments and all that back in September of 2018. The reason for me starting to really kind of research that stuff was because I was doing a real hard look at who I was, what I was doing. My dad had just gone into hospice for his bone cancer, and it was just one of those reflection times in life. And so when I came out on the other side, I'm at this Fortune Builders event telling all my friends, like, no, I'm not going to buy anything. I even brought a friend there. I was like, you need to hold me accountable. Don't let me buy anything. And by day 3, they dropped the $30,000 package, and I was like, I'm in. And so that was that decision day. But, I really call it the decision date because it's what opened my eyes to real estate investing, the active side, the passive side. And then I just kind of like looked over my shoulder and I was like, I've been doing this Airbnb thing since 2015 as a house hacking way, but can it be done as an entire house model? And the short answer was yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been sitting on this iceberg where 90% of it was under the water, and I just had no idea it was even there. And when my eyes were finally open, it was pretty life-changing. And that's where I'm at today.
Wow. So it was Fan Merrill's event, right?
Yep, you got it.
Wow. Yeah. Great guy. I'm trying to get him on the podcast too, but he's out doing Fortune Builders events everywhere. But yeah, he's a great guy.
He's actually from my hometown in Fresno.
Oh, really? Wow. So
yep.
I had one of his buddies on the probably a month ago, Kent Clothier, if you know who he is.
I don't know.
But,
yeah.
Oh yeah, he works with Than, especially when the market went down, and he basically taught him more systems. But cool guy. He's in La Jolla. But yeah. So who else were your mentors in real estate investing starting out?
So I had Fortune Builders, which is a mentoring and education system. But then really when you get into it, you start to realize how connected this industry is, and you start to realize how much of an abundance mindset there is with everyone. And so I just was able to tag along with a few local mentors. One in particular, his name is John. He really just, kind of grabbed my hand and said, hey, if you're serious, you'll blow up my phone. And if you blow up my phone, then I'm going to be there to help you out. And so that's exactly what I did. He's walked me through. I mean, even guys, like, here's the thing is, and I'm sure you're dealing with this, Zach, it's even a year and a half in, like, I'm still calling him and being like, hey, is this the ARV that you're getting on this? Or, hey, what do you think about this idea? And like, your mentor, and there's going to be multiple mentors, I believe, in your life. I think you outgrow some of your mentors as well. But John is like, he answers my calls. He calls me back. We have a very give and take relationship in terms of a two-way street. Like when he wanted to do his first Airbnb, I was like, hey man, I got your back. Like, I'm helping him out. And so long story short, he's been one of my biggest mentors. But also YouTube University is a big thing. Just going out and educating yourself and researching is a big deal.
Definitely. I 100% agree with that. I've talked to some of the best and like just most popular guys, millions of followers, social media when it comes to real estate guru wise. They all have mentors. Even I had Matt Larson on last week. He mentored Tony Robbins when it came to real estate investing with Dean Graziaso. Even Tony Robbins is getting mentoring.
Yeah.
He's the guy that knows everything. So it's never you don't know enough not to get mentoring. It's always it's a great thing. So
absolutely.
With the abundance mentality, I totally agree with the coaching space and with the mentor space. It's there. If you're in the wholesaling market, you probably know this in Fresno. People are a little cutthroat sometimes.
Can be.
But
yeah.
But it's a little crazy. But I think the abundance part of mentorship and helping people out is a great thing. So, the other question I had for you before we get into Airbnbs here is, so who are you outside of real estate? Type of a guy.
Good question. By the way, Matt Larson's going to be on my show too. He was on Michael Zuber's show. He's getting around right now. He's a good dude though. Who am I outside of real estate? Man, I'm a Christian. I am just honestly, like, always trying to find ways to keep myself busy because, we talk about time freedom, we talk about financial freedom, and like, then you get a little bit of a taste of that and you're like, man, this is boring. So I've always got some project going on. I love to travel. One of my dreams one day, and really I could probably do it right now, but I'm just way too driven to do it right now. Is just to buy a luxury RV and like start traveling around the US for most of the year. And then, have a place where I live maybe 3 months out of the year. I hate paying for big things, for example, a mortgage. So I'm always a believer that like you should live for free as long as humanly possible. And so I'm trying to teach that to other people. But, when you've got families and kids and everything, not everyone's always as open to doing the way that I'm doing it. But, I just like helping people. And I want to really start getting into a lot more like volunteer things. I'm going to be joining a local dog rescue over here that's going to be close to a house that I'm moving into. So those and golf, baseball, that's a lot of what my time gets taken up with.
Oh, that's great. So let's get into Airbnbs here. So
yeah,
the reason why I'm so interested in them is because I have an irrational fear of a certain thing in real estate. And that is, I've talked to some of the top real estate investors in Southern California, and they, for the past 15, 20 years, they've made a killing with rentals, and they just get more and more rental income, and it's great. Past 10 years, there's something called rent control has come around there, and they are not able to get the right cap rates, and they're not getting investments that they have been. And they've all told me that they're all transferring out of state, and that's got a lot of problems. And the other half of people are getting into Airbnbs because they can control the rents.
Yep.
So that's why I was really interested in having you on. So can you please give me a synopsis of an Airbnb deal?
Sure. Just like with the numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reason I got into Airbnb in the first place was just to have free rent, or a free mortgage, when you can literally just house hack a room or two out of your home and make $1,000 a month. Like that's all I ever saw with Airbnb. But then one day I woke up, like I said, after I made the decision with real estate, and I was just like, what would happen if I did this entire house? And started educating myself, again, tagged along with people that were doing it. And the big thing that I kept hearing was you could basically gross 3 times as much as what your mortgage or your rent is. And so I started doing the math there, and I was like, man, that's like $1,000, $1,500, maybe even $2,000 if your expenses are really low in some places. I need to give this thing a shot. And so basically I could say for you, Zach, there's a lot of different types of deals you can do, but at the end of the day, the average that I'm getting in most of my deals is $1,000 of net cash flow every single month.
Wow. So
yeah.
Obviously I can put any house that I have here and calculate Airbnb, and it looks great. You have been through it all. You understand it. What are some of the hidden things that people don't know when they just calculate and they say, wow, I'm going to make $5,000 this month? I mean, what are some of the hidden costs that people don't really know?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much you've got just your rent and mortgage. You've got all the utilities as if you were living there, from PG&E to landscaping. Sorry, when I say PG&E, that's our local gas and electric company here. Your utilities, city utilities, your Wi-Fi, your Netflix account, all those things add up to right around, an average month is going to be $300 to $500. And then of course you have your cleaning fees, but if you're doing it right, you're actually going to make a little bit of an income on your cleaning fees too, by upcharging the guests. So I'll give you a real life example. We've got a place that usually grosses about $3,600 to $3,700 per month here in Fresno. Our cleaning fees are about $700 a month. And then our usual gas, electric, and utilities are going to be another $500. So doing the math there, you're coming out ahead $1,100 to $1,500 per month based on, just some factors there that, will bring it up or bring it down. But that's a real normal amount for me to net. There's about $1,100 to $1,500.
Okay. And are you owning these? Or are you getting mortgages? What's going on with some of these deals for you?
Yeah. So basically there's 3 different ways that you can run an Airbnb: ownership, rental arbitrage, or co-hosting, which is also known as managing. So I can just break that down for you. Basically, I have four houses that I own, which have 6 doors in total. And then I also have 3 that I arbitrage and then 2 that I manage. So arbitrage is a really popular term that's being thrown around right now. And if you're not familiar with that, essentially it's just getting into an Airbnb without having to own it. So
Yep.
that was the thing that really like blew my mind when it came to Airbnb, is that you can scale this thing without having to own a house and find a deal. It's so much easier. So basically it's just me going to the landlord and saying, hey, Mr. Landlord, or hey, Mrs. Landlord, I want to be your best tenant. I want to basically help you by paying rent before you even get rent from anyone else. We're going to take care of your place. We're going to clean it 5 to 6 times a week. We're going to be covered by $1 million insurance policy. The only thing that is different about working with me versus working with a long-term tenant, though, is that I'm going to be basically renting out as a short-term rental. I'm going to be managing the property. And so there's tons and tons of benefits to that. If you want to take a look at the benefits, all you have to do is go to my YouTube channel, just search Fearless Flipping. And there's one that's called Rental Arbitrage, a landlord's best friend, or a landlord's best option. And we talk about all of the benefits of exactly what you can do with a landlord there. But that's a great way, because all you have to do is get in with a landlord, create a great relationship with them. And basically you're just paying for the rent, the security deposit, and then you're furnishing the place. And so essentially you're in on it maybe at the most $10,000, and you've got a place that's cash flowing as much as $1,000 to $1,500 per month if you're doing the right deal.
Definitely. So I think a really important key factor there you said is you're actually conditioning the sellers that you are going to do an Airbnb.
Absolutely. Yep.
I see kids talking about on YouTube, just like, don't say it, just get the rental and just go throw them in.
Yep. Well, let me tell you, I mean, I'm really transparent. I did it that way in the beginning, and here's why. I was so excited about this notion that I could do entire places that I just went and bought the first course that was available. And when I got like halfway through the course and I was starting to get really, really excited, then they said just that. They said, well, some are going to allow it, but then most of them aren't. So here's the way that you should do it. And, you know, you ever get into something and you're just like, man, this doesn't feel right, but I'm so bought in. I'm so like there already that I just need to do this and not second guess myself. Like, these guys are doing it, so I'm sure it's fine. And I did it the wrong way. I got caught. Luckily, the leasing, it was actually an apartment. Luckily, the management company didn't evict me. They just said, you can't do this, just get out of here. And so I went ahead and put in my 30 days. But I learned a really hard lesson, luckily, in a very positive way, because that gave me the confidence to go keep on doing it, but doing it the right way. And so learn from my mistake. Don't do it that way. Don't go out there and try to like get an apartment or a house and not tell them. You have to be transparent. It's the only way that you will actually build a business. If you want to go and get one listing and just like roll the dice, sure, you could do that. But I'll tell you, after doing it, it's not ethical. I wish I hadn't done it. And I definitely would say that it's not any way that you're going to build a business, because you'll start to build a reputation that you're doing things the wrong way.
Definitely. I completely agree with that. So when it comes to getting deals like this, I mean, are you using like a wholesale model where you're going after motivated sellers too for these type of properties?
Yeah. So the way that I run my active side of my real estate business is actually I work with wholesalers. So I'm not usually talking directly to sellers. I really am relying on investor-friendly realtors, wholesalers, our systems with Craigslist and other types of things where deals are coming across our desk. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm looking to be able to burr as many as possible, get into maybe some subject twos, owner financing, you know, any sort of creative ways to be able to take over a property is definitely something that I'm always looking to do. The most creative one so far is actually one that I'm buying right now to live in myself. I have an investor that is actually paying for the down payment, paying for the furnishing, paying for all the amenities that are going to be in there. So I'm in this house with none of my money. And basically they're as a second position on the mortgage. And the spread is so good. And here's the key thing. I want people to really know this. I evaluate all my deals so that if it ever gets turned into a long-term rental, I'm still okay. Because God forbid, you know, like something happens. You see it all the time. I'm talking to a guy right now in Florida who is like, hey, where can I do Airbnb? Because it seems like stuff is getting shut down left and right, or getting regulated left and right. So two things there. You need to make sure that you're in the right area for Airbnb. And you can remotely do Airbnb too. That's the thing. Like if you wanted to get into a different market and you don't live there, like that is absolutely possible. But then on the other side of it, if you do get into that area, Airbnb gets shut down, you need to, if you're arbitraging, make sure that you have an out clause in that contract so that you're not getting hurt by having, a year-long lease and not having any sort of out. Or if you are buying a property, getting it creatively through creative terms, whatever that is, it needs to work as a long-term rental as well so that you're covering your behind.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Airbnb business here, is you're obviously doing this for long-term wealth. It's going great. I mean, are you using any other quicker types of income like wholesaling or wholesaling, fix and flipping?
Yes, absolutely. So
Okay.
this last year was our first year of doing real estate investing. We flipped 3 bird 1, wholesaled 1. So 5 deals in our first year. And then we've got another one under contract right now. And we flipped one in the beginning of the year, which was really fun. From the time I got the keys to the time I got rid of the keys, it was a total of 6 weeks. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. So I definitely am taking advantage of some active real estate as well.
So stupid question here, but why
No,
don't you do VRBO versus Airbnb? What's the difference for you?
yeah, no, it's not a stupid question. It's a great question.
Okay.
I get it all the time. A lot of people have asked me, hey, are you listing on other platforms as well? The answer to that is yes, but I just haven't seen any sort of returns like I do with Airbnb.
Okay.
I think VRBO is a lot more driven to the vacation rentals areas, the beaches, places in Florida definitely are going to be a little bit more VRBO plus Airbnb. I don't know many people that are just doing VRBO. I know a ton of people that are doing just Airbnb because the platform is so well known. It's becoming the cool way to go travel. People don't say, hey, I'm getting a VRBO. What do you hear most people say? Hey, I'm doing an Airbnb.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the most popular. It's the most protected as well. I know that if I list something on booking.com or some other sort of third-party website, I'm not usually protected with an insurance policy, and I don't have the same way of being able to pre-screen guests like I do with Airbnb. So I feel much safer on there. And my occupancy rate over the last 2 months is 90%. Over the previous 6 months of that, it was 95%. So, it's like, do I really need another platform for another 5 to 10% occupancy? I could, but I would rather feel safe and secure on the Airbnb platform.
So when you say 90% occupancy, so out of 365 days, 90% of those days, there's someone in there paying?
Yeah. Well, the
Wow.
previous 6 months, it was 95%. Yeah.
That's better than a rental.
Way better than rental. I mean, all you got to do is look at the numbers. If you're cash flowing $1,000 versus 200 to 300, what's better? It's more cash flow. And here's the thing too, like just the things that you mentioned there, Zach. If I'm especially in California, where all of these like rent regulations are going on, and there was, I think it was Santa Clara recently, where it was something to the effect of if coronavirus is present in the neighborhood, then a tenant can't get evicted. It was something crazy. It's just like California's going nuts when it comes to rent regulations, and on the side of the tenant, not the side of the landlord. So someone asked me the other day, what if I have an Airbnb guy who decides he wants to be a squatter? And here's the thing. It's like, too bad. Like, they didn't sign a lease. There's proof that they are booked for these few days. So the cops can come in and kick them out because that's all that they are contracted to be in there for. And vice versa. I have other neighbors that are like, hey, we don't want to live next to a hotel. And I said, you know what? I totally understand that. I wouldn't want to live next to a hotel either. Here's the deal. I actually run an Airbnb in my own house. So I wouldn't put something next to you that I wouldn't also do myself. And here's the advantages for you as a neighbor is that if there is a bad tenant, you don't have to live next to them for a year. You're going to live next to them for one night, and then I'm going to kick them out, and you're not going to have to worry about them ever again. And so, especially as a landlord, how appealing is that to know that, hey, if I ever have any issues, I don't have to worry about them for a 12-month lease. I can go ahead and get rid of them in 12 hours.
Definitely. So it seems like this is very scalable. I mean, eventually, hopefully for you, I know for a fact you were going to do this in the future. Next 2 or 3 years, you're going to get 50, 60 Airbnbs going. I mean, how are you going to manage all these?
Yeah, so it's systems, it's teams, it's everything. So we went from 1 listing to 5 in 5 months, 5 to now we have 10 in the following 3 months. So basically we've gone from 1 to 10 in 8 months. And it's the number one teammate you got to have is a great cleaner. If you don't have great cleaners, then it doesn't matter what they're charging you or how good of a communicator they are. If they're not doing their job, you're going to get bad reviews and you're going to really lose some business. So that's the number one thing. From there, it's having the systems or the teammates in place to really automate this. I mean, Zach, I have, like I said, 10 listings. And we do tons and tons and tons of business. Again, 90 to 95% occupancy. I spend about 1 to 2 hours per week managing my current listings. All I'm doing is creating content on my podcast and YouTube channel, trying to find ways to be able to get more listings and educating people on the process. And then 1 to 2 hours per week, I'm really like, I'll communicate with a guest every once in a while if I see that, things are falling through the cracks, which is very, very rare. So I have VAs, I have assistants, I have managers that are all doing that. And really, I mean, at the end of the day, we have pretty much an active, like, one cleaning crew and one great manager and a couple of VAs.
Wow. So you're doing this full time, right?
Whatever you want to call full time, it's definitely my main focus.
So, I mean, you're not doing any more sales jobs, TV anchoring. This is.
Oh, yeah. No. Just Airbnb and real estate.
Okay. So especially when it comes to Airbnb here, you've obviously probably have one but what is your craziest real estate story?
I was hoping you would ask something like this. So recently, and I've got a video on this one too. So if you go check out my channel and you just search for the one with me saying someone stole my stove, you will find this video. So basically, this was that 6-week flip that we had. No such thing as a smooth transaction, right? Everything was smooth aside from this. We basically had what looked like a really solid neighborhood. And before I know it, we're getting broken into like every other night. And one of the times we thought we fixed the issue. We thought it was a lockbox issue. We ended up fixing that, but it turns out that it wasn't a lockbox issue. These guys were professional, whatever you want to call them. They were able to jig the lock and get inside, and they stole a stove before we sold this thing. And so I was frustrated. And so I just was like, you know what? I know it's not going to be on here, but I'm going to look on OfferUp and Let Go and Craigslist.
What's on there?
And it's freaking on there, dude. And the key thing was, so it was the same model and everything, which I was like, it's got to be this. It was literally just listed 6 hours ago, and I just found out 8 hours ago that this thing was stolen. It has to be this. But there was a little sticker that was ripped right in the middle of the stove, and that was the key thing that made me realize this is the stove. So what I did is I messaged the guy saying like, hey, I'm really interested in your stove. I really want to go buy it. This thing looks nice. He had me come over, super sketchy area. I had a pocket knife in my back pocket because I was like, wow, this is going to be interesting. I was pretending like I was on the phone the whole time so that they would know, hey, if like we mess with this guy, whoever he's talking to is probably going to come like get us too. But anyway, the whole thing was I just needed to get a picture of the barcode to match it up with mine. And I was able to get the picture of the barcode, took it back. I told them I was going to go get my truck to come pick it up. Cops came. The guy went and hid inside, but luckily the stove was outside on the front yard, and we went and grabbed it. And they haven't come back and tried to get anything from that house since. So I think they got the picture that we're onto them.
Wow. So that's, oh boy. Okay. So coming to this now. So, I mean, what is your 1, 5, and 10-year plan when it comes to your journey here?
Well, the 1-year goal is to be at 20 Airbnb listings by the end of this year. Man, it's been a while since I've been asked this question. I honestly, man, like I don't really do the 5-year plans anymore just because I've just found, I got asked the other day, like, what is my why? And honestly, it's just to like do everything with passion every single day. And if I start getting worried about the 5-year from now, then I start noticing that like I'm extremely motivated by progress. If I'm helping people and progressing, like I'll be on fire. It doesn't matter if all I did for today was just post one video on YouTube, like it was growth, it was something. But then if I start saying, hey, in 5 years, I need to have $5 million in this kind of house, and I'm not getting towards that, then I don't really appreciate what I'm doing today. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense.
Yeah. So I just got to the point where I was like, man, if I'm going to keep on progressing, I need to just, what is the goal for the day? I really like, I'm very honest with people. I used to do the whole like morning routine thing, and it just wasn't something that fired me up. It didn't feel like I was really getting anything accomplished. And so I just haven't really done that recently. I just make sure I wake up at a time where I can kind of get my mind right before a bunch of people start messaging me. So I just wake up and do my thing in the morning and make sure that I've got my list of things that I need to do that day and they're attainable. And it's not like 30 different things. It's just like, here's the big 3 things I need to really make sure. And then if I get more stuff done, that's great. And that really helps me to feel like, hey, I'm getting towards goals without having to have this like big 5-year, 10-year plan. But I do know where I'm going. And I know that what I really want to accomplish is helping a lot more people, no matter if it's real estate, Airbnb, volunteering, no matter what that looks like. I just know I want to help more people. And I know that I want to live a life where I can be wherever I want, whenever I want.
So how many years do you think it's going to be till you're in that RV going around the country?
Man, like I said, I could do it probably right now. I don't know why. I know why I'm not doing it right now with as many different things that are going on in our business, from helping other people, educating people on Airbnb. And really, with the talks of, especially with coronavirus going around right now, there's talks of recession and everything. And, I'm in a position right now of conservation and storing away cash and being ready for if something like that happens, to just go out there and start buying things. But, man, I think if I had to put a number on it, I would hope that I'm doing that in the next 2 to 3 years.
Great. Yeah. I mean, that's always a dream of mine too. Go around the country in an RV, luxury one, obviously, but
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
It would have to be during the summer too, so I could go hit up a bunch of baseball games.
Oh yeah. Come down to Florida too. So, when it comes to fearless flipping, so you've been obviously doing your investment side here, but when did you decide to actually start helping others?
Yeah, well, I guess when I started my podcast and YouTube channel, I just kind of like had this notion of when I am passionate about something, I want to share it. And I just had this thing of like, hey, if this ever turns into something where people are wanting help and, and I'm able to, create some sort of education system around it, that's great. But I would rather just go out and start sharing. So that was in July of last year. So about 6 months into my journey, I just decided to start sharing. But again, like the goal wasn't to share just to share. It was to actually have experts on there who are giving great information, great teaching points, and just see what happens from there. So that was what I did. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised that a lot of people were interested in this kind of thing, which is nice, right? Because, it wasn't even a sales thing. I wasn't trying to like sell anyone on anything. I just wanted to be able to like bring great value. And being in sales a lot in my previous lives, you're always trying to like convince people to do things or bring the horse to water and hope that they're drinking it. Where it was just like, hey, here's a bunch of free information. And everyone was just like coming to me saying, hey, how can you help me? How can you help me? And I was like, wow, I guess I got to figure out some way to be able to start helping people. And it just kind of evolved from there.
Wow. So you've obviously brought on some students and you've been mentoring people. I mean, so how many students do you have now that you're actually mentoring in Airbnb space in the past year?
Yeah, well, there's a couple different ways that I do it. One's with group coaching and one is with the mastermind.
Okay.
Overall, we have currently, since starting an education program with Airbnb, we've taken on 20 new, it's right around 20 in the last 2 months, which is great. I love having a small number so that I can really dive in and like have some actual accountability and really help these guys get some results. And then with the mastermind, it's about half and half. It's about 10 to 12 in the mastermind and the rest are in group coaching.
Wow. So obviously I've seen some great testimonials you've had. You've actually helped people become, financially free with Airbnbs. I mean, was there any testimonial or student giving you a great story that really had the biggest impact on you?
Funny enough, it's my niece. And it was very, very minor, but it was so cool. She started Airbnb the place that she lived in with her daughter. And so she's got a 4-year-old daughter. And she just said to me one day, she was like, I'm making like $800, $900 in my first month with Airbnb, just renting out like a room or renting out on the weekend, which like, isn't really isn't anything to write home about. She was kind of like, just for lack of a better term, she was kind of half-assing it, which is fine. Like, she wanted to do it at her pace, but she was like, Kyle, the one thing that it's really making me do is like plan out my weekends to get out of the house and go do things with my daughter so that people can go and have a good time at the Airbnb. And she's like, my relationship with my daughter is now getting better because I'm like actually doing this Airbnb thing. So I know that's not like a great like financial testimonial, but that was the one that really like hit me at the heart the most.
Oh, definitely. That's awesome. So you have your podcast. You also have your YouTube channel. I mean, also a great Instagram there. So people should hit you up on there. It's actually below you on the podcast. It might be different than yours, but all your handles are down here. But last couple questions for me here is, if someone, let's say they found a renter, a guy actually listing it for rent, and they want to get an Airbnb, what is your elevator pitch to that seller to get them to get an Airbnb for you?
So you're saying a landlord, if I was to arbitrage it?
Yes. What would be your elevator pitch?
Yeah, man, I love your hard-hitting questions. It's like, I should have prepared for this thing. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Zach, it's a real simple thing. First of all, if I have a relationship with that person, it's a real easy conversation. If I don't have a relationship with that person, it's about building a little bit of a relationship.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I can't tell you how many people message me and say, man, it seems like a really tough conversation to have with a landlord. And I'm like, it's really not. Like, you're just making a friend, because at the end of the day, the only sale you're going to make is convincing them to let you take over as a renter. Then you're building trust and building a relationship. There's no sale after that. And so it's one sale and then a 12-month relationship, hopefully a 24, 36, 48, 60-month relationship, because you're continuing to rent this place out because you're their best tenant. Like, literally, I can't tell you how many landlords so far in doing this in just a short amount of time have been like, hey, I've got another property coming up. You've been my best tenant. I want to give it to you too. And so if you can, again, going back to my video that I posted there, I think that's going to get you your best answer to this question, Zach. But
yeah, definitely.
Really, at the end of the day, I take 5 minutes to walk the house with them, make a great relationship, compliment them on the house, ask them where they're from, what they do for work, yada, yada, yada. Just basically the FORM sales method. If you're not familiar with that, FORM, family, occupation, recreation, and then your message. And then from there, I'm just, hey, here's the deal. I've got a trifold brochure in my back pocket. I bring it out and I'm just like, here's what it's like to work with me versus a long-term tenant. And I just list off all the reasons: insurance, cleaning, liability, repairs. You're not going to hear from me hardly at all. I'm going to be your best tenant, not only because I'm paying rent on time, but because I'm literally almost never contacting you unless there's like a foundation issue, a plumbing issue, a roof issue in which it was wear and tear. And so at the end of the day, they want to work with me because hopefully they like me a little bit. And I think that's the biggest takeaway there, Zach, just like anything in real estate. If you knock on a door, people aren't going to do business with you as you being the buyer and them as the seller. If you have the most information about real estate, it's because they just like you and you're a real person. You're not a weirdo. You're not like, trying to, convince them of anything. You're just giving them options and letting them make their best decision.
Completely agree with that. So just before we wrap this up, too, another question I had in my mind here is, what are the top objections that you get when you're trying to pitch this?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is insurance, because landlords, yes, a lot of landlords know the liability that they're taking by owning a piece of real estate, but all their friends are doing it. Every lawyer has got a friend that owns a piece of real estate, right? And so they're comfortable with doing it and renting out to a long-term renter. But then suddenly this guy, who is running this short-term rental management company comes along and tries to get them to think differently. And they're like, well, none of my friends are doing this, so why would I do this? So they want to know, am I protected by insurance? And so that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest advantage of being with Airbnb, you asked about VRBO, is because I'm protected by $1 million insurance policy, no matter what happens. And so if a door gets broken, if the house burns down, if anything happens, as long as it's under $1 million, they're protected. And that really helps them sleep safely at night, along with the fact that I'm going to have renter's insurance and they're going to have a homeowner's policy that's going to be with short-term rental management, because they're going to be matched up with my teammate who is a great insurance guy. So I can put most fears to rest when it comes to insurance, and that's usually the biggest question.
Wow. So you said you used the FORM method. Is that family, occupation, recreation, and what's the M?
M is your message. So basically your pitch. Yeah.
Okay. I've been always told it's Ford with that dreams, but that's pretty cool.
The M seems like it's different for everyone. It could be money, it could be message, it could be like so many different things. But I like message just because message is a broad term, which like it could be your message could be dreams.
Wow, that's cool. So, to actually end this, I want to ask you the same question I ask every single guest at the end of this, and that's because I started real estate investing when I was 17 with no money. So if you were 17 again in Fresno, California, what would you do to become the next Kyle Stanley?
I would do what Zach's doing. I would learn it at a young age. I didn't learn the term passive income till I was 26 years old. I grew up with a dad and a mom who worked hard every single day. Even though my dad was a business owner, the business really owned him. And so this thought of passive income was something I'd never heard about. So I would, it's not necessarily that I would get into real estate when I was 17. I probably would, but I don't even know if it has to be that. I would teach myself passive income at a much younger age.
Okay. Yeah. So I need to make just a clarification here. Passive income is completely different than what we do in real estate. Would you agree on that?
Depends on which side of real estate you're doing. But as flipping, wholesaling, any of that, yeah, that's more active than passive for sure.
Definitely. So I just want to clarify that. But I mean, you're doing great things here. I mean, I can't wait to have you on next year and you tell me that you're doing 1,000 Airbnbs. I think at your pace, it's going to be insane. So I really appreciate you coming on. If you want to check him out, go to, what's your URL?
Yeah, fearlessflipping.com. And if you're serious about getting started in Airbnb, you're going to want to make sure you know your numbers. Go to fearlessflipping.com. On our homepage, we have a Airbnb calculator that literally will spit out exactly what you could possibly make in your area with a certain property. So you're definitely going to want to download that. And then you can learn more about Airbnb on our website. Again, just fearlessflipping.com.
All right. So putting your information on his website there, I actually downloaded that yesterday. It's pretty amazing. Obviously, I was playing around with the different cities and I found some that work, some that don't. Ironically, our hottest market, which people really don't know much about, that's not the best, and our worst market's actually the best for Airbnbs. But that's just a funny little story about your system.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you got some use out of it.
All right, sweet. So check him out, Fearless Flipping, everywhere, podcast, YouTube, and on his URL. Thanks for coming on, Kyle.
Thank you so much, Zach. Show notes for that one are going to be fearlesskyle.com/Ginn episode. That's GINN episode. And things have changed since COVID. That's when we filmed that episode. It was literally like 2 days before COVID hit. But the one thing that hasn't changed is the trajectory of our Airbnb business. And that's what's exciting, is that we have doubled our number of units. We've doubled our revenue. We are growing at a crazy, crazy rate ever since the beginning of this year. And so if you're anywhere in the US or even outside of the US and you want to get into Airbnb, but you don't want to run it yourself, you want someone to manage it for you, go ahead and reach out to me. Just go ahead and DM me on Instagram or find me via email. That's info@fearlesskyle.com. On Instagram, it is fearlesskyle. And if you're wanting to actually do this business though, and you're thinking, well, how has Kyle built a 20 plus listing portfolio of Airbnbs that's paying him over 5 figures, nearly passive income every single month? All you got to do is go download our Airbnb profit calculator, and that is on our website, fearlesskyle.com. As soon as you download that, you'll have an opportunity to continue the conversation about our educational program. And we would love to be able to help you out and help you build an Airbnb business. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Fearless Investor Podcast today, where we're helping you to conquer the world of investing. We'll see you next time.